All right, welcome to my first ever tier ranking list. Today we're going to rank Star Trek movies. I love the Star Trek movies, sometimes more than the shows. And they're very special to me, near and dear to my heart. And so I'm going to rank all of them from the original timeline, all 10 original timeline movies, and then the 3 Kelvin timeline movies. So here we go. Starting with number one, the very first one from 1979, Star Trek the Motion Picture. Now, I enjoy this movie, right? I think it's a good movie. I'm putting the B tier. I think it's solid. It's middle of the road. It's got a lot of issues in terms of like pacing. It's not really the quickest movie. It's nicknamed Star Trek the Slow Motion Picture. But it's very like that's the whole point. It's very sci-fi, very cold and kind of thought provoking, almost like Asimov style. I like it. I like this movie. It's not perfect, but it's got a great score by Jerry Goldsmith. It's got great visuals from ILM, and then Robert Wise did a good job. I think Robert Wise did a good job directing this movie. There's a lot of things I would change about it, but I like Ilea and Decker, even though Decker, the actor for Decker, despite playing a pastor on Seventh Heaven, was not a good man. And that aspect of the movie has aged poorly. But I like the movie. I'm going to give it a solid B. Not great, but good. Next up, we have Star Trek II The Wrath of Khan from 1982. I think the general consensus about this movie is that it's great. Everyone enjoys it. It's not my favorite, but it's still great. It's always a good time. The James Horner score is excellent. I think it's a wonderful film by Nicholas Meyer, and it is definitely S tier for me. Moving on to Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. I like this movie a lot. I'm going to put it an A. I think it's definitely better than the motion picture. Certainly not as good as Star Trek II. Spoiler alert, not as good as Star Trek IV. But it's, people always say the odd movies are worse, are the bad ones, and then the even movies are good. I don't think Star Trek 3 follows that, and I think it's actually a good movie. I love the Excelsior design. I love that the James Horner score returns. I like the Genesis idea, and I think it's well acted for the most part for a Star Trek movie. I think unfortunately the sets are lacking, and I think it's not a perfect movie, but I enjoy it. There's certainly Star Trek movies I enjoy more. And that gets us to Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home from 1986. I love this movie. It is my favorite Star Trek movie. It's near and dear to me. I used to watch it all the time with my grandfather. Actually, most Star Trek movies are special to me for that reason. He is gone to be with the Lord. But I love this movie. I will always watch it. It's always a good time. Great score by Leonard Rosenman. Different. It's a different Star Trek movie, and it's very accessible for people who are not big Star Trek fans, and I think that's okay. I really enjoy it. Next up, the worst Star Trek movie, Star Trek V: The Final Frontier from 1989. It's all right. I still have a good time watching it. However, it's not good. It's not a good movie. What does God need with a starship? I mean, it's just I like what they were trying to do, but it's too campy. It's too corny. The only really redeeming factor of the movie for me is I like the storyline with Bones' dad, and I like the whole camping scene at Yosemite. I like that. The rest of the movie, it's kind of lacking, honestly, and the whole gags with the Enterprise not being put together is just kind of dumb for me, considering it looked pretty complete at the end of Star Trek IV. So yeah, this one, it's not good. It's the worst Star Trek movie by far, and that's why it's going to go in F tier. All right, now we get to Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country from 1991. This one is probably B tier for me. Maybe A. I think I'll put an A. It's solid. It's a good movie. It's a good send off for the original crew. I just have never really resonated with it. I would rather watch The Search for Spock, personally. So I'm going to put it behind The Search for Spock. But it is a great movie. It's a great into the whole arc of Kirk in these movies, where he finally accepts the Klingons, for killing his son. Forgiveness is a great tale. A lot of good biblical values there. However, I just don't like it as much for some reason. It just doesn't work for me. Not saying it's bad. It's certainly not bad, but it's not my favorite. That's why I'm going to put an A tier. Still have to acknowledge it's a great movie. Alright, next up is Star Trek Generations from 1994. This is going to go in B tier with the motion picture. I think it's better than the motion picture. I know people hate Kirk's death, but I enjoy it for what it is. I like the movie. I don't think they had to destroy the Enterprise D like that, but they did. It's okay. The Next Generation is my Star Trek. I love The Next Generation so much. So I automatically enjoy the Next Generation movies, even if they're not as good. For the most part, I just like them, so I always have a soft spot for them. So I'm going to always put them higher than I probably should. And I like Generations. I think it's an interesting idea. I love the line, they say time is the fire in which we burn. I like the movie. I like the idea of the Nexus. I think it's a solid movie. Not great. Certainly not the best of the Next Generation movies, but it's good. Now we get to the best of the Next Generation movies. The First Contact from 1996. This movie's great. I like it so much. I like it more than Khan. More than Wrath of Khan. I don't know. Something resonates with it about me. The only thing that make it better is if it had the Enterprise D. I mean, it's a great movie. It's an awesome movie, and I love it. I love Worf's line where he goes, assimilate this, and shoots the Borg. I love Captain Ahab and his whale where Picard lashes out. I love everything about this movie. It is great. It's an awesome movie. Great score. Jerry Goldsmith came back and delivered. It's a great movie. And Jonathan Frakes directed it. Jonathan Frakes has cemented himself as one of the best Trek directors. So, First Contact, S tier movie for sure. Alright, next up, Star Trek Insurrection from 1998, the year I was born. This movie's probably B tier for me. I don't know if I like it more or less than Generations. I think it's solid. You know what? Actually, I'll put it in C tier. I think it's okay movie. Not bad. There are a lot of things that would change about it. I don't like the fact that the Baku are civilized. Like, they are advanced civilization. And they choose to stay there. It'd be much more interesting if they are from that planet for me, personally. I also think that it's just not as fun as the other two. It feels more like a 2-part episode than it does a movie for me. Not a bad thing, still solid. I think that Donna Murphy and Patrick Stewart have pretty good chemistry. I like the action set scenes in the end. I think it's not a bad movie. It's just kind of mid for me. It's mid tier. It's a good time. I still enjoy it. Like I said, I like all of the movies here. I do. But for me, it's not the weakest of the Next Generation movies, but it is C tier for me. Next up is the final movie from the Next Generation movies, and it's Nemesis from 2002. If this movie was not the send-off, and there was another Next Generation movie after it, it would not be as hated. I think it's a okay movie. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's amazing. I don't think it's good. I hate that it killed Data. However, it's watchable. It's serviceable. It's not terrible. And I still enjoy parts of it. I just think that if someone like Jonathan Frakes directed it, there was another go or two at the script, it would just be a better movie overall. I still don't like that they killed Commander Data. He's my favorite character in the Next Generation, and it sucks that they killed him. It's just that plain and simple. So I'm gonna put this in D tier. It's certainly not worse than the Final Frontier. That's why it's in D. But it's just weak in comparison to the rest of the movies on this list so far. And here we get to the controversial films, the Kelvin timeline. Yeah, Nemesis was so underwhelming at the box office that they felt the need to reboot it. And I'm glad, because Star Trek from 2009 is what got me into Star Trek. I saw it at Merchants Walk Theater in Kennesaw, Georgia, with my grandpa in 2009, and it made me love Star Trek. For that reason, it's an S tier. My fourth favorite Star Trek movie. I know a lot of people have issues with it. I know it's not always faithful to the source material, but it's fun. The Michael Giacchino score is excellent. You know, J.J. Abrams is always good at starting a franchise. He's not good at finishing a franchise, but he's good at starting one. So I'm going to put Star Trek from 2009 in S tier. Next up is Star Trek Into Darkness. I'm going to put this in C tier. It's certainly not the worst movie I've ever seen. However, I think it just relies too much on the past, yet changes it too much for me to really enjoy it. I do have a fond memory going to see this movie with someone who's now passed away, who's with the Lord. Great guy. I miss him dearly. But it's still not the best movie. Certainly not bad, but it's C tier. It's mid. It's not a bad movie. Not great. I'll watch it every now and then, but it's not one I go back to all the time. It's kind of forgettable, and I don't like the Admiral. I don't like his daughter. I don't know. It just seems like here's a bunch of stuff that we're going to introduce for plot convenience, and then we're never going to mention again. And you literally figured out how to cure death, and you didn't use that ever again. It's just kind of weird. So yeah, C tier. It's mid. As you can see, I like Insurrection more. So yeah, C tier. And finally, Star Trek Beyond from 2016. You know, I don't know where to put this, actually. I think it's really good. I think I'm going to put it in B tier, right here at the top. No, I think I'm putting it in A tier. I think it's a good movie. It's definitely more reverent of the source material. I like Idris Elba character. Crawl. I like the setting. It's more down to earth. I love that Bones and Spock get a chance to be back and forth with banter in this movie. It's more like the original series in that regard. Carl Urban and Zachary Quinto just do a great job. I think Chris Pine always does a good job with Captain Kirk. And I think Justin Lin does something different that's really cool. I think the callback to Sabotage works. And I think that Yorktown, the whole station is so beautiful, so pretty. There's a lot of things to like about this movie, and I wish they would make more. So yeah, that is my ranking of all 13 Star Trek movies. Please like and subscribe, and join me for the next tier ranking. All right.